How many of you were Charlie after the attacks last year on the satirical newspaper editorial, Charlie Hebdo, by Saeed and Sharif Kouachi? Should you have proclaimed Just Be Charlie in your social media? Was it right to do so? I spent the last semester studying what it meant to proclaim Just Be Charlie and whether one should wholeheartedly identify as Charlie. The attacks were without a doubt the Kouachi brothers' fault, and they should take responsibility. But it was also on France, and it is time they took responsibility. They cannot deny the role they played in causing the attacks, and I will show you their role through the historical, political, physical, identity, and media marginalizations of Muslims. First, I would like to inform you of the historical marginalization of Muslims. France was a predominantly Catholic-dominated country throughout its history. In fact, France was the Catholic Church's biggest supporter, and the king ruled only through divine right. Catholicism has never been tolerant of other religions, and it has caused the death of millions of people. The Crusades are a prime example of this. When the Pope started the Crusades by calling for the eradication of all Muslims, France played a major role in all of the Crusades and was in every respect the leader of the Crusades, which is evidenced by French knights comprising much of the flow of reinforcements, as the article France During the Crusades noted. With such a major role in the religious wars against Islam, how could France not have deep-rooted anti-Islamic sentiments that last to today? Then there is the political discrimination. French policy's promotion of discrimination against Muslims began with the mass immigration of unskilled Muslim male workers from former North African colonies after World War II in France. A period of begrudging acceptance of them ensued as both France and the workers benefited. Then the economic downturn in the 1970s led to animosity towards the immigrants as job competition increased, as Bowen notes. Because most of the immigrants were from former French colonies such as Algeria, the job competition could have led to the emergence of sentiments of superiority, as native French citizens resented that formerly French-dominated immigrants could steal jobs from them. This also led to the rise of the National Front, which promotes Muslim cultural discrimination through political means and wants the systematic expulsion of all illegal immigrants from France, along with the reduction of immigration into France. The National Front has grown in popularity since the Charlie Hebdo attacks, to the extent that if the leader, Marine Le Pen, ran for president, she would win, as Dominus noted. National Front's cunning in disguising their true intentions, because they do disguise their true intentions. They have touted a much less radical ideology since the Charlie Hebdo attacks to appeal to the common people, to make it more viable to vote for them. However, they are just, at their roots, they still believe in marginalizing Muslims, which is evidenced by when Le Pen derided Sarkozy's support for the recently enacted ban on full veils as pandering political maneuver that addressed only the tip of the iceberg as shorter notes. Additionally, Muslims were also physically marginalized. When the Muslim immigrants came over, the government situated them in the banlieues, or the French suburbs, which segregated them from actual French society. They lived in institutionalized-looking buildings, which have become run down over time as the banlieues have no money for upkeep. Also, living in the banlieues, a place with already high, rampant unemployment, adds a stigmatization that makes it nearly impossible to find a job. France promotes a cycle of poverty through the implementation of the banlieues. The poor are going to become poorer as it becomes harder for them to find a job. The inhabitants of the banlieues cannot even look to the police, the keepers of peace and protectors of the weak, for aid, evidenced by the criticism of the police for violence in the banlieues by the European Commission Against Racism, National Commission on Ethics and Security Services, and Amnesty International, as Kumeta noted. They have no one to turn to. On top of this, there was discrimination of their identities. No matter how secular French Muslims become, they will never live up to the standards of actual French citizens and become considered French. French people want Muslims to fully embrace laïcité to be considered fully French. Yet even when they do, they're only considered secular Muslims instead of French citizens. Also, police add to discrimination based on identity, which is seen by Arabs in Paris being 8 times more likely to be identity checked than whites, as Kumeta also noted. Finally, the media only adds fuel to the fire. The media plays a role in demonizing Islam across the globe. It has increased coverage and framed the news in an increasingly violent light after the September 11th attacks. In combination with the increasing use of internet where news sources are readily accessible, it has led to the formation of harmful Islamic media stereotypes. Many people associate Muslims with jihads when that is not the case. Not all jihads are Muslims, and not all Muslims are jihads. As long as non-Muslim French people view Muslims as foreign and alien, French citizens will never be able to fully integrate Muslims into their society. Muslims are and always have been marginalized in France throughout its history. French citizens not only must also make an effort to reach out to the Muslim community if they ever truly want a unified country. With this discrimination and disapproval from society, it is no wonder that the Kouachi brothers turned to radicalism for acceptance when they could not find it in society. Thank you.